But I love going into cathedrals, for instance, if I'm in Europe, okay, and there's nothing to do on a Sunday.
Before his death, Sam Neill looked back on a lifetime filled with unforgettable films, incredible performances, and remarkable people. But when he thought about the individuals who truly mattered most to him, his answer was not about fame, awards, or Hollywood success. It was about the friendships and connections that stayed with him through the years. From Jurassic Park co-stars to longtime friends and collaborators, these were the people who left the biggest mark on his life. Their stories reveal a different side of Sam Neill that many fans never got to see. Join us as we uncover the 6 people Sam Neill loved most and the special bonds that meant everything to him. Laura Dern. After spending more than 5 decades in the film industry, Sam Neill had countless stories to tell. He had worked on major movies, played unforgettable characters, and shared the screen with some of the biggest names in entertainment. But when he looked back on his life and career, his memories were not only about famous films, awards, or the roles that made him recognized around the world. For Neill, the most meaningful parts of his journey were the people he met along the way. A long career in Hollywood can bring many connections, but not every relationship lasts. Film sets bring people together for a short period of time, and once a project ends, many of those friendships naturally fade as everyone moves on to new work and different parts of the world. However, some connections become much stronger with time. Neill understood that the people who stay in your life are often more important than the achievements that receive public attention. The success of a movie may be celebrated by millions, but the friendships created during those years are personal memories that remain with you. When reflecting on the people he loved most, Neill did not focus on who was the most famous or successful. Instead, he thought about the people who brought kindness, laughter, trust, and support into his life. These were the people who made long working days easier, who shared conversations away from the spotlight, and who remained important even as decades passed. From his friendships with Jurassic Park co-stars to his relationships with respected filmmakers and longtime friends, each person represented something valuable to Neill. They reminded him that a career is not only measured by the work you complete, but also by the relationships you build while doing it. When people think about Sam Neill and Laura Dern, the first thing that usually comes to mind is Jurassic Park. The 1993 Steven Spielberg film became one of the biggest movies in history, and their characters, Dr. Alan Grant and Dr. Ellie Sattler, became 2 of the most memorable parts of the story. On screen, audiences saw 2 scientists trying to survive a dinosaur outbreak while dealing with danger, chaos, and unexpected challenges. Their characters had a natural connection, and viewers could feel the trust between them. But according to Sam Neill, what made their relationship special was not just what happened in front of the camera, it was the genuine friendship they built behind the scenes. Filming Jurassic Park was not always the exciting adventure people imagine. While audiences saw dinosaurs, action scenes, and groundbreaking special effects, the actors often spent long hours waiting between takes. Making a major film requires patience. Cameras had to be adjusted, lighting needed to be changed, and complicated scenes sometimes took hours to prepare. There were also weather problems that affected production. The cast and crew often had to wait for conditions to improve before filming could continue. During those quiet moments, when there was nothing happening on set, Sam Neill and Laura Dern had the chance to talk and get to know each other. Those simple conversations became some of the memories Neill valued most. For Neill, those moments between scenes were where real friendships were created. It was not about being part of one of the biggest movies ever made. It was about spending time with someone who made long working days easier and more enjoyable. Laura Dern stood out to him because of the way she treated people. While her acting talent was obvious, Neill believed her kindness was what truly made her special. Film sets can be stressful environments. There are hundreds of people working together. Everyone has responsibilities, and pressure can build quickly. In situations like that, the way someone treats others can make a huge difference. Neill admired that Dern never acted as though some people were more important than others. Whether she was speaking with another actor, a director, or someone working behind the scenes, she treated everyone with the same respect. She did not only focus on the people in front of the camera, she also cared about the people who helped make the film possible. For Neill, that revealed a lot about who she was as a person. Many actors are remembered for their performances, awards, or famous roles. But Neill often spoke about how much longer kindness stays in people's memories. He believed that talent matters, but the way someone makes others feel can leave an even stronger impression. That was one of the reasons his friendship with Dern lasted for so many years. Their connection was never something they had to force. They did not need to constantly stay in contact or prove their friendship publicly. Whenever they met again after years apart, things felt natural. That is something Neill appreciated about their relationship. Some friendships require regular attention to continue, while others remain strong even when life takes people in different directions. After Jurassic Park, both Neill and Dern continued their successful careers. They worked on different projects, followed different paths, and spent time in different places. But whenever they came together again, their friendship still felt familiar. There was no awkwardness or need to rebuild the connection. They could simply pick up where they left off. Over time, Neill began to look at his career differently. When he was younger, success was often connected to the films he made and the opportunities he received. But as he grew older, he realized that the people he met along the way were what mattered most. For him, Jurassic Park was not only important because it became a legendary movie. It was important because it introduced him to people who became meaningful parts of his life. Laura Dern was one of those people. She represented trust, warmth, and a genuine friendship that lasted beyond a single film. The movie eventually became something audiences around the world enjoyed, but the bond they created during those long days of filming remained something personal. For Sam Neill, the greatest memories were not just the famous scenes or the success that followed. They were the quiet conversations, the laughter between takes, and the feeling of working alongside someone who made everything better. And next, we'll look at another Jurassic Park connection who brought endless laughter and unforgettable moments into Neill's life. Jeff Goldblum. When people talk about Jurassic Park, many unforgettable moments come to mind. The dinosaurs, the groundbreaking effects, and the intense survival scenes helped make the film a worldwide phenomenon. But for Sam Neill, some of his strongest memories were not only about the movie itself. They were about the people who made the experience special. One of those people was Jeff Goldblum. Audiences around the world know Goldblum as Dr. Ian Malcolm, the clever mathematician with his confident attitude, memorable lines, and unique way of speaking. His character became one of the most popular parts of Jurassic Park, and many fans still remember his performance decades later. But Sam Neill remembered something beyond the character. He remembered Jeff Goldblum, the person. For Neill, Goldblum was someone who could make ordinary moments more enjoyable. Their friendship was not built only during the exciting parts of filming. It grew during the quieter moments when the cameras were not rolling and the cast was simply waiting for the next scene. Making a major movie is not always non-stop action. Behind every famous scene are hours of preparation. Actors often spend long periods waiting, while crews adjust equipment, prepare locations, or solve unexpected problems. Those moments can sometimes feel tiring, especially during a long production. However, Neill remembered that having someone like Goldblum around made those days much easier. Goldblum had a personality that naturally attracted people. He was curious, energetic, and always interested in conversations. He had a way of turning simple discussions into something memorable. Whether he was talking about films, music, books, or completely unexpected topics, he brought a sense of excitement to everyday conversations. What made Goldblum special was that he never seemed like he was trying to entertain people. It was simply part of who he was. Film sets can become stressful places. There are tight schedules, complicated scenes, and constant pressure to get everything right. Everyone involved in a production has responsibilities, and sometimes that pressure affects the mood around the set. Goldblum had a way of changing that atmosphere. Neill remembered how Goldblum could walk over, start talking about something interesting, and suddenly people around him would be smiling. He did not need to make a big effort or become the center of attention. His natural personality made people feel relaxed. That quality was something Neill appreciated deeply. While audiences remember the famous scenes between Alan Grant and Ian Malcolm, Neill's favorite memories often came from the moments that never appeared on screen. They were the conversations between takes and the time spent simply getting to know each other. Those were the moments that stayed with him. Neill remembered sitting with Goldblum while waiting for filming to continue. Their conversations could move in many different directions. One moment they might be discussing movies, and the next they could be talking about music, books, or personal experiences. The conversations did not always have a clear purpose, but that was part of what made them enjoyable. They were natural and effortless. For Neill, those quiet moments became more meaningful over time. The famous scenes from Jurassic Park are remembered by millions of people, but the personal memories behind those scenes belonged only to the people who experienced them. As the years passed, Neill began to value those simple interactions more and more. He realized that success is not only about the major achievements people see from the outside. It is also about the relationships formed along the way. Jeff Goldblum was someone who made those years more enjoyable. One of the things Neill admired most about him was his ability to make people feel comfortable. Some people can enter a room and immediately make conversations easier. Goldblum had that ability. Neill did not only remember working alongside a talented actor, he remembered spending time with someone who brought happiness to everyday situations. Even years after Jurassic Park, Goldblum remained someone Neill appreciated and respected. Their friendship was connected to a special period in both their careers, but it lasted because of something much more personal. It was not just about the movie they made together. It was about the laughter, conversations, and shared experiences that happened when the cameras were turned off. For Sam Neill, Jeff Goldblum represented joy and companionship. The film gave them the opportunity to meet, but their friendship was built through countless small moments that had nothing to do with fame. And next, we'll explore the longtime friendship that showed Sam Neill the true meaning of loyalty and consistency. Brian Brown. When Sam Neill looked back at the people who made his life better, Brian Brown was one of the first names that came to his mind. Unlike some of Neill's other famous connections, his friendship with Brown was not built around one major Hollywood moment or a single unforgettable film. It was built over many years through simple experiences and genuine respect. Brian Brown and Sam Neill both spent decades working in the entertainment industry. They experienced the highs and challenges that came with being actors, but their friendship was never about awards, premieres, or professional success. It was about knowing someone who remained the same person, no matter what happened around them. For Neill, That kind of friendship became more meaningful as he grew older. When people think about friendships in Hollywood, they often imagine relationships formed at glamorous events or during major projects. But Neill believed that the strongest connections usually came from much quieter moments. They came from conversations after a long day of work. They came from sharing meals that lasted longer than expected. They came from phone calls that were supposed to take a few minutes but somehow continued for an hour. Those ordinary moments were where real friendships were created. That was the kind of relationship Neill shared with Brian Brown. Their friendship did not need constant attention or public recognition. It existed because they genuinely enjoyed spending time together. Brown represented a type of friendship that Neill valued deeply. He was not someone who needed to be the loudest person in the room or constantly seek attention. He was comfortable being himself, and that honesty was something Neill respected. In an industry where people often have to adapt to different situations, Brown stood out because he remained consistent. That consistency was one of the qualities Neill appreciated most. Over the years, both men experienced success and changes in their careers. They worked on different projects, traveled to different places, and sometimes spent long periods apart. Life naturally became busy, and there were times when they did not see each other for months or even years. But when they finally met again, nothing felt different. There was no need to explain the time apart or rebuild the friendship. They could simply continue from where they had left off. For Neill, that showed the strength of their connection. As people get older, their understanding of what matters often changes. Early in life, many people focus on achievements, opportunities, and reaching new goals. But later, the relationships that remain become much more important. Neill began to appreciate qualities that are not always celebrated publicly. Talent is impressive. Success is exciting. But knowing that someone will always be honest, reliable, and genuine is something much more valuable. That was Brian Brown. Neill admired that Brown never changed because of fame or recognition. He was the same person whether he was working on a major production or simply spending time with friends. There was a sense of comfort in knowing exactly who he was. You never had to wonder what version of Brown you would meet. The person Neill knew years ago was still the same person he saw later in life. That kind of dependability became increasingly important to him. Many friendships can be affected by distance, busy schedules, or changing circumstances. People can lose touch even when they once shared a strong connection. But Neill understood that some friendships remain strong because they are built on something deeper than frequent communication. His friendship with Brown was one of those relationships. They did not need daily conversations or regular meetings to prove that they cared about each other. The foundation was already there. Their shared history and mutual respect allowed the friendship to continue naturally. When Neill thought about the people who had made his journey more meaningful, Brown's name stood out because of everything he represented. He represented loyalty. He represented trust. He represented the comfort of having someone in your life who stayed genuine through every stage. Looking back at his career, Neill remembered many films, locations, and experiences. But he also understood that the people he met along the way were what truly stayed with him. Brian Brown was not simply a fellow actor. He was a friend who proved that some relationships can survive decades without losing their meaning. For Sam Neill, that was something worth valuing. A friendship that lasts through changing careers, busy lives, and the passing of time is rare, and Brown remained one of the people who made his life richer. And next, we'll look at the legendary director who showed Sam Neill what true leadership and kindness looked like on a film set. Steven Spielberg. Before Sam Neill ever stepped onto the set of Jurassic Park, he already knew he was working with one of the most respected filmmakers in the world. Steven Spielberg was not just another director. By the time production began on the 1993 blockbuster, Spielberg had already created some of the most recognized films in cinema history. Movies like Jaws, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, and Indiana Jones had made him a household name. His ability to tell stories and connect with audiences was already well known. Actors, filmmakers, and audiences around the world understood the level of talent he brought to every project. But for Sam Neill, working with Spielberg revealed something that could not be seen from the outside. It was not only Spielberg's filmmaking ability that impressed him, it was the person behind the reputation. Neill discovered that one of the world's most successful directors was also someone who cared deeply about the people around him. For him, Spielberg's greatest quality was not simply his ability to create incredible movies. It was the way he treated everyone involved in making them. Film sets are large and complicated places. A production like Jurassic Park required hundreds of people working together, from actors and camera operators to special effects teams and production assistants. Every person had an important role, and every day brought new challenges. In an environment like that, the attitude of the person leading the project can affect everyone. Neill noticed that Spielberg always made people feel respected. Whether he was speaking with a lead actor, someone operating a camera, or a person who had just joined the production team, Spielberg gave them his attention. He did not treat people differently based on their position. That was something Neill remembered clearly. Many successful people can become distant as their careers grow. They can become focused only on results and forget about the people helping them achieve those goals. But Neill saw a different side of Spielberg. Despite being one of the most powerful directors in the industry, Spielberg remained approachable and patient. That quality became especially important during the making of Jurassic Park. The film was not a simple production. It involved new technology, complicated visual effects, and ambitious ideas that had never been attempted at that scale before. The team had to combine traditional filmmaking with groundbreaking computer-generated imagery to bring dinosaurs to life. There was pressure from every direction. The movie needed to work technically, creatively, and emotionally. Every decision mattered. Every scene required careful planning. With so many moving parts, it would have been easy for stress to take over. But Neill remembered that Spielberg handled those challenges calmly. Instead of creating fear or tension, Spielberg created an environment where people felt encouraged to do their best. He trusted the people around him and allowed them to contribute their skills. For Neill, that showed the difference between simply being in charge and being a true leader. A person does not have to constantly remind others that they are the leader. Real leadership comes from earning respect and creating an atmosphere where people want to give their best effort. That was something Neill admired about Spielberg. He saw that Spielberg did not need to raise his voice or demand attention. His confidence came from his knowledge, preparation, and respect for the people working with him. The director understood that every person on a film set contributed to the final result. From the biggest roles to the smallest tasks, everyone mattered. That attitude left a lasting impression on Neill. Over the years, many actors have chosen to work with Spielberg multiple times. While his reputation and success may bring people to him initially, the way he treats people is what makes them want to return. Neill understood that talent can create opportunities, but kindness builds lasting relationships. For him, Spielberg was not only the director of Jurassic Park, he was someone who showed what a great leader should look like. The experience taught Neill lessons that went beyond filmmaking. It showed him the importance of patience, respect, and understanding when working with others. Looking back, Neill did not only remember the excitement of creating one of the most famous films ever made. He remembered watching Spielberg handle difficult situations while still making people feel valued. That was the part of Spielberg that stayed with him. The The success of Jurassic Park made Spielberg even more famous, but Neill's admiration came from something much more personal. He respected the way Spielberg treated people when the cameras were not focused on him. For Sam Neill, Spielberg represented one of the most important qualities a person can have: genuine respect for others. The film brought them together professionally, but the friendship and admiration that followed came from the character Spielberg showed behind the scenes. And next, we'll look at the friend who reminded Sam Neill that the simplest moments in life often become the most meaningful ones. John Clark. When Sam Neill spoke about the people who meant the most to him, many people might have expected to hear only famous names from Hollywood. After all, his career connected him with some of the biggest actors and filmmakers in the world. But one of the people Neill valued most was John Clark, someone who was not known internationally in the same way as some of his other friends. And that was exactly what made the friendship so meaningful. For Neill, this was never about creating a list of the most successful or famous people he had met. It was about the people who made his life better, the people who brought happiness, comfort, and genuine friendship into his everyday life. John Clark was one of those people. Their friendship was not built around awards, movie premieres, or professional achievements. It was built away from the spotlight through years of conversations, shared experiences, and simple moments that became important over time. Neill often reflected that the moments people remember most are not always the big events. They are usually the small parts of life that seem ordinary at the time. A conversation that lasts longer than expected. A meal where nobody wants to leave. A random joke that makes everyone laugh. A quiet afternoon spent with someone you enjoy being around. Those were the moments Neill treasured with Clark. Their friendship was not defined by one specific memory or one major event. Instead, it was made up of countless smaller experiences that added up over the years. Neill remembered the conversations they shared, the dinners that continued long after the food was finished, and the comfortable silence that comes when two people do not feel the need to constantly entertain each other. For him, those simple interactions showed the true value of friendship. As people get older, they often begin to see these everyday moments differently. When life is busy, it is easy to overlook simple conversations or casual meetings. People often focus on major achievements, important events, and future plans. But later, those ordinary moments can become some of the memories that matter most. That was something Neill understood when he thought about John Clark. One of the things he appreciated most about Clark was his sense of humor. Clark did not need to be the center of attention or try to impress people to make them laugh. His humor was natural. He had the ability to make people smile through simple comments and unexpected observations. He did not need a large audience or a dramatic moment. Often, the funniest things came from ordinary conversations. Neill admired that quality because he appreciated people who were comfortable being themselves. In an industry where people are often surrounded by pressure, expectations, and the need to perform, someone who can simply be genuine is rare. Clark was someone who did not need to prove anything. He could make people feel relaxed just by being himself. That was part of why Neill remembered him so fondly. When John Clark passed away, Neill's thoughts were not focused on things left unsaid or conversations that needed to happen. Instead, he found himself missing the simple experience of spending time with his friend. He missed hearing his voice. He missed his humor. He missed those normal moments that seemed unimportant at the time but became valuable memories later. That feeling showed how much the friendship meant. Often, people think about loss by focusing on major unfinished moments. But sometimes, what people miss most are the small things. the regular conversations, the familiar jokes, the simple comfort of knowing someone is there. For Neill, Clark represented that side of life. He reminded him that friendships are not only built through extraordinary experiences. They are built through everyday moments shared between people who genuinely enjoy each other's company. Looking back at his long career, Neill had many achievements he could talk about. He worked on major films, met famous people, and experienced moments that millions of fans remember. But when he thought about the people who made his life meaningful, John Clark was one of the names that stood out. Not because of fame or recognition, but because of the happiness and friendship he brought into Neill's life. John Clark showed Sam Neill that the moments that seem ordinary today can become the memories we value most tomorrow. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and join us as we uncover more fascinating stories about the lives, friendships, and memories behind the world's most famous stars.